Hello, middle aged gamers. We are back with the usual Tuesday morning podcast. And today we are continuing Phil's topic from last week, which is about games and gaming genres that have evolved. Today, Antoine is not with us. He's going to rest because he has been working like crazy in Canada. And a quick reminder, if you haven't noticed, Adam is streaming Final Fantasy. Phil streamed Necromunda on Sunday, which was really, really cool to watch. If you're like me and you're not sure about buying it or not, have a look at that video. It's available on Twitch and Facebook for a week, and it's always going to be available on YouTube because Google has infinite storage. So today, let's get back to the topic though and stop talking about Google. Uh, Phil, why don't you fill us in on what this topic is about?
Sorry, 1 second. Oh my god.
Can you hear us, Phil?
Yeah, sorry, I've got a really bad echo going on. I don't really know why.
Uh, uh, Adam just muted his mic, that's why.
Oh, so I was just getting relayed back from him.
Yes.
Okay, right. Okay, it's fine now. Yeah, so we were talking about because I was having a little bit of a mini rant last week about games that seem to have evolved and whether that's an actual evolution that gamers have enjoyed or whether there's been a blurring of the lines where all games have seen something that's worked or have just decided for whatever reason to change the way that the game works and features. So because I was mainly, not even last week, the week before, I was also ranting about World of Warcraft, from World of Warcraft 2 to World of Warcraft 3 to sorry, Warcraft 2, Warcraft 3 to World of Warcraft. And it got me thinking about a whole lot of other variety of games that I would like to have ranted about. But I actually was pretty good today, and I've gone with something that I was positive about because I didn't want to be a negative Nancy. But if we've got time towards the end of it, no Antoine, so we might end up with 40 minutes spare for the podcast. So if that's true, then maybe I'll have a rant towards the end of a few games where I feel that evolution has been negative. But we'll see. Adam, you wanted to go first?
I tend to go first. What 1, 2, or not? That's just where I normally slot in. I thought it was real. I was really confused there for a second because you were like, "Oh yeah, I wanted to kind of go negative," but then I thought maybe not. But since we don't have an Antoine today, maybe we can do that at the end. And now at first I was like, "Wait, is Antoine the negative guy?" That you're like we don't since he's not going to be doing it, we can cover it for him. But then I was like, "Oh no, he's just saying we have extra time." I was really confused there for a second. I was like, "What's going on?" Poor Antoine. Oh man. No, but originally when I heard about this, Korean was like, "Oh, what are you planning on doing?" And I just had, I was just listing off game after game after game of, you know, these evolution. I mean, Resident Evil has seen tons of evolution. Assassin's Creed has seen it, and obviously Final Fantasy has seen a lot, and that would have probably been the perfect one to go over. But we've been covering quite a bit of Final Fantasy over the last few weeks. And so I thought, you know what? Yeah, maybe it'd be a good idea this time to kind of go with a different game. Just to show that, despite being a Sony pony, I'm not a one trick pony. And, I have other games up my sleeve. So I decided to go with Armored Core, which is another one of my Shut Up and Take My Money series or franchises. If I see it, I will buy it, and I will not even bother looking at reviews because I know it's going to be great and I'm going to love it. But anyway, the original Armored Core came out back in 1997, I believe. Yes, so the original came out in 1997. It is made by From Software. A lot of people nowadays know From Software as the company that does the Soulsborne games, but they were doing Armored Core long before they were doing that. And I'm a bit of a hipster in that regard, in that From Software is always going to be the Armored Core company for me, not the Soulsborne company. And the abbreviation AC is always going to be Armored Core, not Assassin's Creed. So I'm a bit old school in those two regards. But as far as this franchise goes, it's a long franchise. The most recent game, unfortunately, was released back in 2013, so it's been a long time. It's been 8 years since the last time we saw an Armored Core. Although From Software does tease from time to time that they will be making another one, but God knows when. However, there are a total of 23 games in the franchise. Of those 23, 15 are mainline games. 3 of them are ports of the PS2 games to the PlayStation Portable, and 5 of them are mobile games. So Yeah, it's all over the place. Only the most recent games, starting in, let's see, starting in 2006, they started releasing for the Xbox. Prior to that, from 1997 to 2005, they were PlayStation only. Uh, but yeah. So anyway, as far as what kind of genre this is, it's kind of a weird game because it's a third person shooter in a sense, but at the same time, it doesn't really play like a third person shooter because it's a little bit more like Mech Warrior. It's a little more mechanical. It's not very fluid. It's way more fluid than say a Mech Warrior, or at least the traditional Mech Warriors. But it's not like you're not it's not like an Outriders kind of running and gunning and that sort of thing in the same sense. It is very much a mech game, and so because of that, you don't have to worry about precision locking because you'll have a targeting system, and anything that's within your targeting system will be auto targeted. And you can lock on to enemies, and it'll fire missiles and all that sort of thing. So the game was pretty niche. However, within the people that have played it, it has a very, very strong cult following. It's pretty much universally praised, with the exception of, to an extent, Armored Core 4, which deviated quite a bit from the original franchise. But we'll get into that a little bit later. So anyway, I chose this game because actually, in terms of gameplay, it hasn't really changed all that much. It's basically kind of the same game it's always been, but the reason I chose it is because this game, because it is so old and it came out in 1997, the way the game plays, if you were watching it on a screen, you're basically looking at the same kind of gameplay loops that you've seen for the last 24 years. But if you were actually sitting down and you had played the original and you picked up a modern one, it would feel so different. And the reason for that is because this game has really taken advantages of upgrades in technology in terms of the peripherals and the consoles and what they're capable of. So, for example, this was a third-person shooter, and this came out in 1997. I mean, on the original PlayStation, you didn't have analog controllers. So you had action games, but there weren't a lot of third-person shooters, with the exception of something that might be kind of similar to Doom, right? You don't look up or down too much; you're just looking side to side. But in this game, there's things above you, there's things below you. It's very three-dimensional. And the way it got around that, now we just think, oh, use the right analog stick to look around, right? I mean, that's the standard for shooters now. But back then, we didn't have that. So the way they got around it was strafing and looking up and down were done with the shoulder buttons and the triggers. So if I remember correctly, the triggers were your looking up and looking down, and then the bumpers, or the R1 and the R2, were your strafing, or it might have been the other way around. But basically, one allows you to run strafe right, one allowed you to strafe left, and I think it was either L2 or L1 would look down, and then R2 and R1 would look up. So when you picked it up, it wasn't intuitive at all, because you're like, how do I look up? And you're like, oh, I have to press the right button to look up, But as you played it, you got really, really used to it. And it worked really, really well, which, if you've ever played other old shooters back then on consoles, such as GoldenEye, again, they were a lot like Doom, where looking up and looking down. In GoldenEye, the solution was you kind of had to hold the trigger, the bumper button, and then you could look up and look down, but you had to stand still to do it. This one allowed you to actually look up and look down on the fly. So you were still running around. It was kind of mechanical and blocky movements, but you could still kind of look all over the place at the same time. So because of that, it was actually really, really interesting and really dynamic. And if you're watching the video, you can see in some of the gameplay how they kind of do this. But then when we moved on to the PlayStation 2, they added the analog sticks. And for the PlayStation 2, they actually offered traditional controls for older players, or you could use the analog sticks to kind of get that Halo style gameplay, where now you could look up and down with the right analog stick. So they added that functionality to it, which actually improved it quite a bit. And not only that, but then they added other functions to they made it a little more complex. They added heat as a component of your mech. So prior to that, you had your energy output and weight. Those were the two things that were required to build your mech. You had to be able to support your own weight, and you had to have enough engine power to power all the systems in your mech, in your AC. And then Armored Core 2, they added heat. So now you could overheat, and that was a tactic for taking out enemies, was overheating them, and then they would just basically burn themselves out. It also added things like overboosting, which would allow for a lot more speed. So the game became a lot faster and a lot smoother in that sense. And they added a lot more sensors to it. So, for example, they added they added a difference between targeting mechanical units versus targeting biological units. So, if you wanted to be able to target biological units with your targeting system, you had to have the right headpiece that could pick up on those sensors and whatnot. And then in Armored Core 3, it wasn't really that different from Armored Core 2. They basically just kind of improved on a lot of these things. And then in Armored Core 4, because now it had upgraded to the PS3. This was the first time it was on the PS3, and they decided, well, one of the things that separates Armored Core from other mech games is the flight. Armored Core always kind of had these boosters on your back, so it was kind of like a Gundam-like thing where you could launch yourself into the air and you could have temporary flight before you would, come back down, and you had to recharge your boosters. Well, in Armored Core 4, they were like, screw that. Let's be in the air all the time. And so they made it so it was super fast. They took advantage of the new technology. The jump between the PS2 to the PS3 was huge. Okay, PS1 to PS2 was huge. PS2 to PS3 was huge. PS3 to PS4, we didn't see as big of a difference in terms of graphics and that sort of thing. But PS2 to PS3 was a massive difference, and they took advantage of that by making it much, much faster. And so they allowed the gameplay to really, if you're looking at it, it looks basically the same, but it's just, a lot more, snappy. And a lot of people didn't like that because they felt like, oh, now the mechs feel too light. They feel, you're flying around all the time. And unfortunately, making the gameplay faster by doing that in the video that you might see if we get to it, it's a long video, but uh, I picked basically the best looking level in the entire game, but most of the levels are just deserts. It's just flat, maybe slightly rolling sand dunes. It's kind of a, the level design wasn't that great. And then in Armored Core 5, they took the guys who had made Chrome Hound and they made all the mechs heavier and basically allowed them to. So they added some more weight to them, and a lot of people liked that, especially old school Armored Core players. It felt more like the old Armored Core that we were used to. They slowed it down a bit. You felt heavier. You felt the weight of your mech. You could tell like you can pick different legs. If you pick tank tread legs, you felt heavy, but you felt sturdy. If you pick the spindly quick legs, you felt fast. But then they also kind of changed up some things in that the flight didn't really come back. So you could kind of do these short little boosts and hover, but you couldn't fly like you could in the originals. So basically anything post Armored Core, I think Nexus or maybe Ninebreaker, uh, people have kind of lamented the loss of some of these older features because before that the gameplay was basically the same. But I thought it was just kind of interesting that the game kind of evolved with the hardware in the sense that the core gameplay didn't really change, but what they could do with it just in the controllers alone, adding analog sticks and whatnot, adding the two buttons for the L3 and R3. That allowed them to, okay, well, now what we're going to do is, because prior to that, you have your weapons and your loadout, but you just carry them throughout the level, and when you run out of ammo, you're done. Well, once they added those buttons, they're like, hey, if you click the two together, you can do this big overboost and fly forward. But if you just click, maybe L1 and R3, you'll drop the weapon in your right hand and you can pull out a sidearm. So then you could have, extra weapons equipped, which you couldn't really do. And then also because now you could control everything with the analogs, you didn't need your thumb to, fly or whatever. So now you could do all the, your primary weapons and your shoulder weapons, you could do with all the shoulder buttons now. And so I just thought that, looking at it, the gameplay hasn't really changed that much, but as especially the controller has evolved, then the game basically capitalized on it, and they've just been perfecting it over and over and over again. So it's very disappointing that they haven't made a game since 2003, especially now that we have haptic feedback. I would absolutely love to see what they could do with a big heavy mech and, feeling it in the controller. So
All right, that's an interesting take on the topic. Any thoughts, questions, Phil?
You caught me at the end. My question was going to be: do you think there's going to be something in the future, and using the modern technology and the better controller systems? So you've already answered that. There's
yeah,
definitely nothing in even rumored.
Well, that's the thing is there's been rumors for a while, and From Software comes out from time to time, and they'll drop a hint somewhere, or they'll mention it, or somebody will ask them, and they're like, yeah, uh, we definitely have ideas for it in the back burner. But I'm trying to think, when did Dark Souls? Which one came out first, Dark Souls or Demon Souls? Dark Souls was the first one, right? Dark Souls 1, and then Demon Souls was the second one, right?
I don't
Remember
play
correctly?
difficult games, so I don't know.
Okay, so Dark Souls came out in 2009, and Armored Core 5 came out. Let's see, Armored Core 5 came out in 2012. So yeah, Dark Souls came out between Armored Core 4 and Armored Core 5. And Dark Souls obviously took off, and Armored Core was kind of an older franchise and was always kind of niche. And I think, given how popular Dark Souls became, I think they just kind of were like, let's really go for this franchise, which is why we've seen Demon Souls, why we've seen Dark Souls 2, Dark Souls 3, Bloodborne, and now Sekiro. Now they've kind of they've become the company for those, like super hardcore, I don't want to say like dude bro games, but like the whole like I mean I would say but you know what I mean, like the kind of games where it's like I can beat this game, it's super hard, and I don't want a casual version of it, don't put easy on it, like that kind of. Yeah, they've kind of filled in that niche, and so I think Armored Core is the kind of thing where they've said they'd like to go back to it, but I think now their bread and butter, or at least their cash cow, has kind of become this other genre, um and yeah, so I think Armored Core is kind of a.
What do you think that is the case, though? I mean, why? Incidentally, I mean, your topic was technical about controllers and stuff, and then the sort of other meaning of like, yeah, the game has this company itself has evolved beyond this kind of game.
Yeah, From Software has evolved. I mean, they were a smaller company. They were never really a super huge company. They've done a lot of good games. Let's see, what's the history of their games? Armored Core, yeah. Before Armored Core, they had Kingsfield, Shadow Tower. Most games that that people never really heard of. Lost Kingdoms 2, some people might have heard of. But yeah, if you look through their list, they don't really. They did Chrome Hounds, but most of the games you don't really know. And then you get to Dark Souls in 2011, and then it's Dark Souls, Armored Core 5, Mobile Suit Gundam Unicorn, Steel Battle Battalion, Armored Core, and then Dark Souls, Bloodborne, Dark Souls, Sekiro, Elden Ring. So once they kind of hit that Dark Souls thing, I think, and then yeah, I think it just. I think it was just the popularity of it. It's just one of those things where it was kind of a golden goose for them, and that kind of made them. They went from a strong cult following, to a household name, and I think that's partially why I think they found their calling in a way. Much to my chagrin, I would prefer that they go back to Armored Core, but honestly, they're a business, and that was what made them a lot of money, and that's what made them famous, and now they've got a really big reputation, and yeah, so I think they just got lucky with Dark Souls.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and we're gonna say goodbye to Armored Core, and we're gonna move on to Phil's GTA topic.
Yeah. I thought, like I said, I wanted to go with something positive, something that again I feel like there's been development in the game, and it's come a long way from its origins. Especially if you think I used to play. Well, I'm probably showing my age a little bit now. I used to play GTA 1 and GTA 2 at a friend's LAN. He had I think his father was like a computer repair specialist, so he was the only person we knew who had four PCs in the same house, so we could have some pretty good LAN parties and just go around and hook up and play these games. Yeah, it's everyone knows GTA. At $9 billion US. It's got the fourth highest gross revenue of any game. Here's a curveball question for you guys. Can you name any of the three higher than it?
Then GTA.
Three higher grossest revenue of a game. There's only
Call of
three
Duty?
other series. Nope.
Not Call of Duty?
I would have thought it would have been Call of Duty. They would have been.
Oh, World of Warcraft.
Bigger, older.
Ah,
Mario, Pokemon, and Tetris.
Jesus.
Only three series that have.
Wait, what is Pokemon, Tetris? What was the other one?
Mario.
Pokemon.
Oh, Mario.
Yeah, there's three series that have managed to gross higher amounts than GTA. And it's pretty much enwrapped in, in society now. But somebody who doesn't know the name GTA, even if they're not like a gamer, probably has in some way encountered Grand Theft Auto. It's just such a big game. Developed by Rockstar North, published by Rockstar Games. It's a British made designed game.
I
But
didn't
they always
know.
take place in America.
I didn't know it was British.
I didn't
Yeah.
either.
Yeah, 2013, the Telegraph newspaper voted it one of the most successful exports of the UK.
Wow.
Which says a lot, Yeah, even they obviously came up with the name GTA Grand Theft Auto, which isn't particularly it's a terminology that's used in the UK. So yeah, they managed to steal everything about the Americans. What are they going to want to buy? Some game about stealing cars and beating everybody up. Let's go with it! Yay! And the success that's brought them. That's a lesson to kids and developers nowadays, worldwide.
Violent cells.
Yeah, pretty much every platform. I was looking through it. Every generation of the PlayStation, of the Xbox, of computers, you've had access to it. Starting from 1997 was the original GTA. Now I am really showing my age. Yeah, and then I was just going through all of the things, and I was remembering them as every single one came out. Vice City, San Andreas, Liberty City, GTA 3 and 4 and 5, and man, all the expansion packs. Even I actually managed to find it in the App Store. You could get Vice City, you could get San Andreas. Not sure if you get Liberty City, but even just those flashback memories of it's there. Now it's accessible on app stores as well. Um, so why I wanted to focus on specifically GTA is the difference from GTA 1 and 2, the 2D graphics, top down. Um, it was quirky, it was fun, it was interesting and different. And I always remember, like, for Garanga, to get the specials, you had to be mow down. It was probably about 10 monks, walking in a line, doing a little chant and dance. You kind of just had to mow through them all with a car, or get a machine
Jesus.
gun and whack them all down. And which isn't surprising. I also read up when I was doing some research on it. I was read up it was banned in Brazil and condemned by British, German, and French officials when it was on its inception, about that fear of violence in games, I suppose, which I don't think has turned out to be real. I guess I don't want to go into psychology and be definitely doesn't have any link to violence in the world, but I think most sane people would probably think that. Yeah, so you had the change from the 2D graphics into GTA 3, which is where it became 3D, kind of resembling what we're more used to now. But if you've seen Vice City, it's still more, I don't want to say cartoony, but more computer game in the graphics and the gameplay. And just the whole feel of the game. But then you started to get involved more from GTA 3, the links into celebrity voiceovers. And sorry, my cat's going crazy. It's the first day that I've opened this door, and she's like, "Oh my god, there's a new room in the house." She just keeps walking. So if you hear the jingle of her bell, and it's just her walking around, roaming, wondering what the hell's going on. Yeah, but you had GTA 3 into that 3D violence, and then even the progression from GTA 3 into GTA 4, where the realism, became a factor into what we would now be expecting with the GTA 5, which I don't know. I'd hate to say it's set those markers of evolution, or whether it's just been it's just rode the waves successfully through computer evolution, and they've adapted, and they've yeah, like I said, for the amount of sales that they've had, they obviously know. 1 second. Hey, shh. Ouch. Sorry, she's ripping my carpet. Out, 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 out. Close that door. Okay, sorry, I'm back. Yeah, they've marketed and they've worked with what's been available, and they've created something that everybody keeps going on about. When's there going to be a Grand Theft Auto 6? And again, I was doing research on this just in case people were like, oh, that makes me thinking. You know, we've had what GTA 5 was 2013 now. You know, that's quite a while just to be relying on one game. But still, um, yeah, again, I was reading it was saying 2021 they've grossed $985 million from GTA 5, and that part of the reason why they're in a conflict is that the GTA Online world now is generating so much revenue. It's like, well, at which stage do we pull focus on a new game, and at which way will that disrupt what we've got available on the GTA 5 online world? So I think I'll be curious and interested to watch that from an evolution purpose, an evolution perspective. In that, how long can they ride the coattails of the success of GTA 5 with the amount of oversaturation and games you're getting into that? I mean, obviously they've got a product that sells, they've got a returning customer base, but is that going to last forever? Is that going to be a permanent thing? Or and then if they don't start to develop, if they don't start to consider their position now, then they potentially will end up in a with a time period where they don't have a game released that's vying for that top position that new games coming out are going to be looking for. So they're sticking their gun. They're sticking with where they are and they're saying we're happy with this and it's making money. But I don't know. Is that going to be a decision that they regret when then they're potentially left behind? What do you guys think?
I mean, GTA 5 came out what 2011 or something
He
like that
said
at this point?
2013.
2013. I mean, and they haven't made a 6, and it's still one of the most streamed games is GTA 5 online. So I mean, and I think this is kind of the same thing with Blizzard, where they found something that's just massively popular like World of Warcraft, and it's like, why would we ever go back when we can just focus on this one thing? I mean, as long as the audience is there, what incentive do they have not to just focus on that one thing? You know what I mean? Unfortunately. But yeah. I think it'll go for a long time. I think they will eventually make a GTA 6, but I think I think one of the things, I think they're almost in a way at this point motivated not to make a GTA 6, because if they do, everybody's going to want to make a GTA 6 online. And if they do that, it's going to be competing with GTA 5 online, and they're going to be competing with themselves. So in a certain way, they're almost incentivized to not split their audience that way and then have to do development on, you know what I mean, do upkeep on two systems. It's almost more efficient just to keep milking GTA 5. So in a way, it's yeah, it's good business to. Why am I so washed out right now?
As I pasted the screenshot, you're like, your face is glowing.
I told you this camera is awful, but
I didn't realize it was that bad. You were fine
really
when we started.
It's really bad. Yeah, it's really bad about lighting. But yeah, at this point, yeah, GTA 6 in a way, I mean, it would make a lot of money for them initially, but in a way, it would almost hurt them, not help them, because they would be taking away. They would still need to keep up that development on GTA 5 online, but now they also have to dedicate it to GTA 6, and if they're not making a GTA 6 online, they're going to get a lot of backlash for that. So in a way, not moving on to 6 is actually probably beneficial to them in a lot of ways. So I don't see them moving on. I mean, eventually they'll want to move on, but
You're back.
Yeah, I had to reset it.
The advantages that next gen platforms can provide, and whether they feel that can increase the gameplay level. And I suppose if they don't think that next gen consoles offer that much incentive to create something bigger and better and faster, then what's the point?
Well, and at the same time, they could go the same direction as, say, Final Fantasy 14, where Final Fantasy 14 was originally released on the PS3, and then they upgraded it to the PS4. And then after enough of the fan base had moved on, they were like, well, we're just going to go all in on, these higher end requirements, and we're just going to retire the PS3 version. And now Final Fantasy 14 is doing kind of the same thing, where they're coming out with the PS5 version of it, And I could definitely see GTA being like, you know what, we're going to create a PS5 version of GTA 5 online. And then as a lot of their PS4 players, in the future, when they migrate, they're just gonna be like, let's just, we're gonna update some of the, we're gonna update it, so now it's gonna add ray tracing, and they can do all these things in the PS5 version, and then once the player base, a large enough chunk of them have moved on to PS5, they can abandon the PS4 and just go all in on PS5. So I don't think I don't think there's a lot of incentive for them to do a GTA 6 at this point. Very similar to with Blizzard, there's very little incentive for them to do Warcraft 4. And even like they did what was the MOBA that they have?
Heroes of the Storm.
Heroes of the Storm. Yeah, they did Heroes of the Storm, and Heroes of the Storm wasn't as popular as League of Legends or some of these other ones, and Overwatch was, and they just kind of do minimal work on Heroes of the Storm and update it from time to time, but otherwise they don't really do too much with it. But now they're making a Overwatch 2, so I think it's a very business minded decision. So unfortunately, I don't think we're going to be seeing a GTA 6 anytime soon, although there are a lot of rumors that GTA 6 is in development and the protagonist is going to be female this time. So
Ooh.
yeah, I've definitely seen a lot of talk about that. So I don't know. Maybe they are working on it.
Secret.
Yeah.
It goes back into what Adam and I talked about before about cultural gaming habits and stuff. And I know an old student of mine and well, I guess two old students of mine who, I mean, those guys played the GTA for forever, and they're still playing GTA. I mean, one guy started in junior high school, and he's in university now, and I mean, that's the thing. So, I mean, and especially for the Asian gaming habit of microtransactions and paying real money for, on Steam, they call them Game Shark cards and buying money and buying cars and doing the heist. And um, but a student of mine in university, he's been playing GTA with his dad since he was in junior high school. And my other student is in elementary school, is going to be junior high school, grade one, and he's been playing GTA since he was, I don't know how his dad lets him play GTA 5, but he's been playing since he was elementary school, grade 3. And that's just something. And I mean, we'll just have to see what happens. Okay, I'm gonna move on to my game, and I'm glad none of you guys talked about it because I'm gonna talk about the companies that try to do new things or evolving games and how that works out. So I'm gonna talk.
Evolution is survival of the fittest. So that means somebody has to die.
All right, so today, oh, why are you moving, window? I just locked you. Why is this moving? That's irritating. All right, let's try this again. Okay, so if you guys didn't know or you haven't watched, I have been playing XCOM. Not the one that you're seeing on the screen at the moment, which is XCOM Enemy Unknown. And I mean, not since way back in the days where Microsoft made the first XCOM game, back in the early 90s, 1994. XCOM is a turn-based strategy game. I've played them all. Actually, I have played them all, actually, yes, since the very first one came out until the most recent one. XCOM is a series that is very much known for its turn-based combat. That being said, I mean, actually, just as I'm talking about this, I'm like, oh my god, I forgot to include one game where it was like XCOM Enforcer. It was also a 90s game where you were. Anyway, I'll get back into that. So it's known for this. It's known for the strategy. It's known for the weapons. It's known for the research. It's known for doing things over and over. It's known for Iron Man mode. It's known for the Long War mods for XCOM Enemy Unknown and XCOM 2. We get to play this game, and instead of it being like 40 hours, it goes to 100 hours or 200 hours, or playing it in Iron Man mode where you just have a single save. And if you guys saw me Chimera Squad, I would save literally every 2 minutes because I'm a save scummer. I hate when people die. And that is this XCOM. Now, that being said, is they have tried to do different things, and that's what I want to focus on. That's what I took from Phil's topic is the evolution, and maybe not an evolution, an unnecessary evolution, maybe some would term it, or necessary evolution on the part of the developers. Like, yeah, we want to grab more people. We need more people to play these games. Turn-based RPGs or turn-based strategy games, I should say, put people off. Like a friend of the show, Hans, he loves turn-based. Oh, he loves RPGs. He loves somewhat loves strategy games, but he just hates XCOM. He feels too slow, too boring, takes too much time, too much management. And with that came in mind, I mean, let's say in the last 10 years, yeah, with 2021, so 2011, we had another choice of a game which was called XCOM The Bureau. Now, this is not the one I'm talking about. So XCOM The Bureau was uh, a game where it was like a third-person shooting game where it was in the early like 1950s around the Roswell times Area 51, right?
Yeah, Roswell Area 51. Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. So around that time, and the focus on that time period, and in this history, it's like, yes, these are real aliens did really come to Earth, and there was an XCOM created, and they fought aliens, and there was somewhat of a strategy involved, but this was like a big action shooting game. I played it as well. I didn't finish this because the last mission was too hard. I'm like, screw you, I'm not playing you anymore. But no, really, really fun. But unfortunately, just like the next game I'm going to talk about, the one that I most recently streamed, Chimera Squad, this received was just poorly, poorly received. And that's why I'm going to stop here. I'm going to ask you guys is when games are poorly received, I mean, what do you think happens from a development perspective? Do you think developers want to try new things, or what happens when a game is poorly received after you put a lot of effort in?
I think it really depends on the developers. It seems to go different ways. Sometimes they really want to appease the crowd, and then, for example, with uh, Valkyria Chronicles was very popular, and then they created Valkyria Revolution, and Chronicles is a strategy RPG, and Revolution was supposed to be a action RPG, and a lot of people didn't like it. And so when they released initial footage of it, apparently they went back and they started kind of adding some more strategy elements to it, and it became this awful mess. But I mean, part of it was because they were trying too hard to kind of cater to what the people wanted, and it just didn't mesh very well with what they had originally envisioned, and it was almost like you guys should have just ignored us. But then you have other companies, Bungie, um, who are notorious for just not listening to their audience at all. I mean, Destiny has just constantly bombarded with people not liking their decisions. And when they make them and people complain, they double down on it and they just say, like, no, this is the way it's going to be done. Or they just completely ignore it and they just, and it's just, so it just seems to be the developers. Some of them, I think, maybe cater too much, and they forego their own vision and it becomes kind of a mess. And others, I think they get really defensive about it, and then they're just like, no, we'll tell you what you like. And, yeah, it's a really hard balance. I mean, occasionally people get it right, and sticking to their guns or adapting. But yeah, I feel like now we're getting more of that kind of Bungie development thing where it's like the working as intended, and um you know like sunsetting. People hated sunsetting, and Bungie was just like, you're just going to get used to it.
Do you want to explain what sunsetting is, Adam, for people who've never
Okay, so
heard?
sunsetting was now that we have live service games that go on for a long period of time. A problem is that you run out of things to do. You eventually just don't have anything to do. And so what would happen is a lot of these games are built off of progression. So a lot of MMOs use what we call an item level, where your character might be max level, but they can get stronger gear. And so the gear's level continues to go up. Um, Sunsetting basically, what sunsetting does is it basically makes it that whenever new content comes out, because obviously this gear can become ridiculously overpowered over time because it's just compounding on itself, that what they do is they take older gear and they actually weaken it over time until it becomes no longer viable. And a lot of people don't like that, because if you find something that really works with your style, well, guess what? It's only good for the next 2 months, and then you're going to have to find something new because this is going to become crap, basically.
Okay. Phil, what about you? I mean, when do you think it's worth it for a developer to ignore the user base, or um, is that a thing?
It's a difficult question. Again, I was going to go with Bungie as well because we've both encountered some serious problems with Destiny and Destiny 2 in the past. And I've said before, when Destiny 2 came out, I was super optimistic, and I was like to Adam, we should get this, let's get involved. And he was like apprehensive, going, I'm not sure I trust these guys.
I played Destiny Year One on the first half where they completely botched it, and then they fixed it in the second half. Phil came in the second half, so I was kind of like, but for Phil, he was like, oh yeah, no, they fixed everything. But I had already left them by that point.
Yeah, they basically just went back on everything that the players had said, that the community wanted, and they basically relaunched with exactly the same, almost the same identical errors and problems of the Destiny early days game. And, just people were turned off by it. And then it was about another year or two, I think, from the first major expansion that came out. And then everybody was telling me, oh, yeah, everything's cool now. Yeah, the weapons are not, it's not they basically set it so that when you got the weapon drop stats were the same across the board. So once you got the legendary item that you wanted, then it didn't matter. You didn't have to farm for it anymore. So you got the couple of legendaries that maybe fit your couple of builds, and then what have we got left to do? Nothing. And that was part of the original loot finder system of it being RNG rolled. So you had something to keep going for. I can keep getting the weapon, but I can get a better stat roll for it. And they have listened, and that's changed again. But again, I think there's only so many times you can do that as a developer in a company before people just start going, I just don't trust your game. I'm not going to pre-order it. I'm not going to back it. And I'm just going to see off feedback when it's released. And I'm going to see if the errors that we reckon that you're going to make on release are going to be repaired. So in a way, it can damage a company in that you can only get away with it, for so much. Whereas I look at Outriders and look at the community outreach with that game. The developers are constantly on. They've been tweeting, and they've been constantly updating every sort of like change and problems and bugs and where they want the game to be and all that sort of stuff. And I just, well, not Square Enix, probably more People Can Fly as the developer. But yeah, I just feel that that's night and day for how a game developer can be. And I'm definitely far more on the side of the People Can Fly, keeping your community, because it doesn't take a lot. They've got staff, and they've got probably PR staff and departments there, just to have somebody that's constantly just engaging with the community and just people feel engaged with the game that they're purchasing. Then I just that for me is a positive in as them as a company.
I think BioWare is another great example in there when that, with the original Mass Effect and the original KOTOR, and BioWare was kind of this golden child. Everybody thought they were great, right? And then Mass Effect Andromeda came out, and I think they got unfairly judged with Andromeda. I loved Andromeda. I thought it was great. And I think, okay, maybe the face is a little bit stiff, but that was patched out almost immediately. Um, but the way that they reacted to it, where they were like, okay, the fan base doesn't like this, we're completely abandoning Andromeda. And they were like, we're dropping all the DLC. We're not going to do anything else with it. It's dead to us. And that for me, yeah, because then when they were like, oh, play our new game Anthem, I was like, I'm going to keep an eye on this, because I saw how you dropped Andromeda like it's hot. I don't want you to do the same thing with Anthem. And I really doubted them. And then Anthem came out and they did it again. And, it was kind of the same thing. And that was a case where they should have stuck to their guns and not listened to the fan base. Because had they just said, okay, we're doing Andromeda, we're going to see it all the way to the end. Now you go back, and now a lot of people are saying, you know what? It wasn't that bad. It was actually pretty good. The gameplay was pretty solid. Maybe the worlds were a little bit empty, but it's not that bad of a game. Because they did patch a lot of it out. It was just that initial hate. But the fact that they had listened to the audience in that case actually hurt them more. Whereas in Bungie, it's them not listening to the audience that hurt them. So it's a really hard thing to say.
I mean, going with both of you again, like looking at a game like Ubisoft. Ubisoft is or a company. They're very famous for releasing a game and then going and patching and releasing content and saying, I know it's not there. We're gonna get there. We're gonna get there. And I mean, I played the Division 1 and Division 2 are prime examples of this. Where, for me, I mean, I'm a very regular gamer, so I didn't really care. But lots of people complained about it, and they were there. They were doing videos and live streams. Warframe is another good example where it first started off very, very, very slowly. I've talked about this on the show before. Me and Hans were like one of the first 500 people. We paid money early and we played it 9 years ago. So why do some companies say, "Hey, yes, we're gonna keep going and evolving this game and meeting expectations or maybe not meeting, but just doing. We're gonna go in the direction we want to go." What do some companies like BioWare, like EA, stop?
Well, in the case of Bungie and BioWare, they were both owned by EA. And
Oh,
I don't believe
Bungie is owned by
Ubisoft was.
EA.
They were. Oh no,
Ah,
sorry, not EA. They're Activision Blizzard. My mistake.
yes.
They were owned by Activision Blizzard. But um, and what was the other one that I said? BioWare. BioWare was
BioWare is
EA,
owned by
right?
EA.
Yeah. So, I think it's just management. I think just sometimes you get good managers and sometimes you don't.
Okay.
Xbox is kind of the same thing where people would say, I don't remember who it was before Phil Spencer, but people didn't like him. And then Phil Spencer came along and now people are like, okay, this guy's doing a much better job.
What do you think,
I didn't
Phil?
have much time to bring it up, but I was talking about when you brought up EA Games, that brought me up to my other one was going to be Westwood Studios. I was going to critique.
Oh, Command and Conquer. Oh God, I miss
Yeah,
Westford.
and I looked. I was looking at the average critic review scores from it from Red Alert, the first Red Alert coming out at 91%, down to Command and Conquer 4 Tiberian Twilight. It dropped to 63% in 2010. Apparently,
Oof.
that just doomed the entire game series. From then, they never recovered from the absolute failure of that launch, and they basically tried to ride the WoW system, and they did the from that transition from Warcraft 1, Warcraft 2 to Warcraft 3, they tried to do the same thing. So they tried to take away the base building aspect from it, and they actually turned it into your I can never remember the name of them. The vehicle that changed into your construction base,
MCV.
construction yard, MCV. Yeah,
Yes.
they changed it to your MCV was redeployable, and you basically just kept moving it with your army. And then when you deployed it, you can only build like 3 or 4 different types of structures and buildings. They tried to make it more into that World of Warcraft 3 and the Warcraft 3, the movement based, and I keep calling it World of Warcraft 3. Yeah, yeah, but they basically just shot themselves in the foot. And then 2010, from there onwards, they had a browser game 2012, they had a mobile game 2018, Tiberian Alliances and Rivals. But as a company, they just lost credibility. And people just moved on, and we've just not seen anything from them. But before we do go, I want to raise 4 with you, and I want you to tell me whether you think that they've done positive changes or negative changes in the whole. The first one was Fallout.
Fallout. Okay, so this is a thing with me, and going to Fallout. This is interesting because you mentioned that GTA came out in 1997. What was it about 1997 that was so magical? We had Diablo, Final Fantasy VII, Final Fantasy Tactics, Armored Core, GTA, Gran Turismo, Paul Rappa the Rappa, Mario Kart 64, Star Fox 64, GoldenEye, Carmageddon, Fallout, The Curse of Monkey Island, and Ultima Online all came out in 1997. What is it about that year that is just so magical? I don't understand. But anyway, Fallout. This is something that kind of gets me because I used to be the kind of person that hated changes like that, and then like when I was playing Assassin's Creed Valhalla, people are like, "Oh, this isn't an Assassin's Creed," and I was like, "I know, call it Valhalla, and it's a great game. Call it Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and it sucks, right?" And I think Fallout is kind of that same thing where it's I actually enjoyed Fallout 3. I thought Fallout 3 was a lot of fun and great. I really enjoyed Fallout 4. And it seems most of people's complaints about Fallout 4 aren't the game itself, it's the fact that it's a Fallout game. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So for me, Fallout 4. I only played 3. New Vegas, Fallout 3, and Fallout 4. I only played the last 3 Fallout games, and for me, they're all like similar. So I mean, and I enjoyed them all. So, but I do know what the original looked like to
Yeah, the
1997.
isometrics.
Yes.
Dude, damn, back in my days. Damn, I love that game. Okay, very quickly then. WoW, because I feel like that's like one of the biggest ones, and we all avoided it probably because we thought Antoine was going to cover it.
I really I have no problem. Again, I'm kind of the same thing where like I have no problem with WoW, but I don't like the fact that it's meant that they can't make a future regular Warcraft game.
I was a beta tester before closed beta and for a while, and I never played the actual game, but I did play it a fair amount in beta testing. And I mean, looking at it now and looking at it back then, I feel it hasn't changed. But I mean, I just have like a 20,
WoW's
30 hour.
changed a lot if you've been keeping up with it. Yeah.
See, you guys been keeping up with this. I wouldn't know.
Yeah, my friends and I, we recently just got back into Shadowlands, and they've done the stat squish, which isn't that big of a change, but it's funny because I've mentioned this before. When Final Fantasy 14 originally came out, it bombed. It was horrible. And Yoshi P came out and said to the guys, he said, "Hey, has anybody ever played WoW? Everybody play WoW. That's your homework. Go play WoW and make that game." And then that's what they did, and it became very, very successful. And then after they kind of got that success, they started kind of going back into creating their own identity. Well, now WoW has kind of waned over the years, and now they're moving back into kind of now they're starting to borrow things from Final Fantasy 14. So things like syncing when you do dungeons, level syncing in dungeons, they're doing that. And in the original WoW, one of the things that I loved about WoW was that you were just basically a footman in the original game. You weren't this hero of Azeroth. You were just this guy who showed up after Warcraft 3, basically. And you were just some nobody, and you felt like that. You felt like you were part of the world. You felt like you were just part of these large armies doing these raids. You felt like you were part of this. And Final Fantasy 14, you were the warrior of light. You are the center of this game's universe. And now in WoW, one of the things that I have a friend who we played Final Fantasy 14. He didn't like it because you were locked into the MSQ and you couldn't unlock content without doing the MSQ. And now Warcraft, we're doing Shadowlands, and there was a part where we were going through, and I was level 52, and my friends were level 53 and 55, and we couldn't do content because to do a quest in the main story, I had to be level 53, and we had to do side questing to get me up to level 53 just so we could unlock that, so we could get to the next zone. And so Warcraft has started that main story quest thing, and now you're the hero of Azeroth. Now the world revolves around you, and I actually don't like that. I kind of liked the way the community was kind of like, we're all in this together, rather than everything is built around me.
Running
But now
short
we're
on
becoming
time, Mr.
many.
Gray.
I
Sorry.
know, I'm sorry. But
I
uh,
mentioned it for you, Antoine. There we go. We can discuss it.
do you have any others you wanted to mention, Phil?
Oh, it was just Pokemon and Mario. Seeing they were two higher on the list of GTA, and whether you think they've successfully, well, obviously they must have in some way managed to successfully evolve.
All right.
I think Mario is a perfect example because Mario just reinvents itself over and over and over again. I mean, what is a standard Mario? There is none.
You think so? I mean, I think like I played Mario in the in early 90s. I mean, and I've been playing Mario Odyssey on my Switch, and I think it's. I guess you're right. It is the same game. Yeah.
I mean, but you have like Mario Kart, you have Mario RPG was it Mario Paper Mario?
Yes.
Mario. I think that's one of the smart things that Mario did was that as soon as they could, they got out of that platformer.
But I mean, they're all like the same. It's still Paper Mario is a platformer. I mean, Mario Kart, of course, is different. Yes.
Isn't Paper Mario an RPG? Mario Party,
Yeah. But
Mario RPG.
see, I don't know. I feel they're all kind of similar.
Mario RPG is like Mario Kart.
Well, I mean, in the same. It's nothing different. I mean, like.
I mean, they both have Yoshi.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just I don't feel like they're drastically different enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel the same way about Pokemon. I feel like Pokemon had this is the aim. Collect everything. There you go. Just do another game where you collect everything again.
Yeah, just give people new things to collect.
Yes.
In fact, I think in Pokemon, that's one of the biggest complaints is sometimes they get these new mechanics like the Ultra Evolutions and stuff like that, and it just changes the game, and people sometimes don't like it because they're like, I gotta dropping these old mechanics, I gotta learn these new mechanics. Just simplify it.
All right, gents. So looking forward to the week. Fantastic to see Phil streaming again. Phil, are you going to be doing more Necromunda Sundays or more than that?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna. Sundays seem to be a good day. The stars align better for me on Sundays because I don't have any teaching. So yeah, probably I will give. I think it's about an hour and a half it took me just to get that second level done. So yeah, I might do the third level, and who knows, maybe it'll take less than an hour and a half. I'll maybe try and be a bit more gun crazy. Last time I was a bit snipery, so yeah, maybe I'll give people a try and view it on shotgun.
Wonderful.
Instead.
All right, Adam, what about you?
I'm purely Final Fantasy VII Remake until I finish it, and then we're gonna jump right into Intergrade because I have a feeling Intergrade's gonna release before I finish. So
How much more do you have to do? I know I asked you when you were
I'm about
streaming.
halfway through.
Halfway through. So
Once I
another.
finish my current chapter, I'm in chapter 8. There's 16 chapters. So once I finish chapter 8, I'm technically halfway through, but it's hard to say because like my first day I finished 3 chapters in one day. The second day I finished 1. The third day I finished 3 chapters. The fourth day I only finished 1. So some chapters are longer, some are shorter. It's hard to say.
Okay.
But they should be more streamlined because most of the side questing is earlier on in the game.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
So there you guys know, Final Fantasy VII Remake, Necromunda on Sundays, Adam Hughes' usual time, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Me, Monday night, Thursday night, Friday night, Taiwanese time. And Antoine is still doing Subnautica. You're going to have to just watch out for your notifications. It's really important you hit that subscription bell and the little bell icon on YouTube as well. And I'll be streaming No Man's Sky for the foreseeable future until I get bored with it or until I really feel like playing Warhammer Inquisitor. If you didn't know, there's a Warhammer sale until June 11th on Steam, up to 85% off a whole bunch of Warhammer titles if you've never played them. If you've been waiting for them to like release all this infinite amount of DLCs and content and other stuff, I bought Warhammer Inquisitor with every single DLC for 15 Taiwanese dollars, which was a pretty good deal. So I'm looking forward to playing that at some time in the future, and I might just stop playing No Man's Sky now that I'm talking about it because that sounds exciting. But all right, guys, I think we're not going to talk about a topic for next week, and maybe we'll just talk about it online. So thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Keep an eye out for the podcast when it releases this week. Keep an eye out for Adam's stream today is Tuesday, so tomorrow morning. And no streaming Tuesday or Wednesday usually, unless you catch Anton doing some Subnautica, which is also a very, very cool game. Last thoughts, Adam, Phil?
I talk too much, so I'm going to let Phil.
Friday, Lupin. Watch it out.
Oh, yes! There's your plug for totally unrelated gaming content, which is a fantastic French show. I've been watching it as well. Yeah, I totally forgot it's coming out on Friday. Fantastic. All right, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. We really appreciate it. We are 202 followers on Facebook, and Facebook just announced this morning they're doing 100% of subscription revenue to Facebook gamer users, game creators. So, yeah, subscribe to us on Facebook so we can get 100% of the revenue and don't need to share it with Twitch or YouTube. All right, and we'll see you guys next week. See you guys later.